Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this broadcast of Toastmasters District 53. Tonight we're going to be talking about the club coach role in Toastmasters International. My name is Andrew Watt, and I'll be your host for this presentation. The course of this presentation is arranged into several sections. We're going to talk about the club coach qualifications. We're going to identify why a club coach is needed. We're going to talk about some of the ways to be an effective club coach. I want to give you a little bit of my background. I am the Club Growth Director for the 2017-18 calendar year. Last year I was the Division F Director, which is Western Massachusetts. The year before that I served as the Area 64 Director, which is an area around Windsor, Connecticut. I've been a Toastmaster since 2013. The club coach role is a really critical one. Right now we have 22 clubs as of October 2018 that need coaches. That is to say, we have work for 44 club coaches in Connecticut and Massachusetts and upstate New York right now. Not all of these clubs are going to survive. Some of them are almost certainly going to close in the next few weeks or months or year. Some of them have a chance at survival, but they need the assistance of Toastmasters like you. Not only do we have 22 clubs that are in this challenging position, but we also have another 25 clubs that might need coaches sometime between now and October of 2019. These are clubs that are currently between 12 and 16 members. They're not in danger of failing right now, but they might be in the future. And if they had a coach waiting in the wings, so to speak, a coach who knew what it was that needed to be done and had some rapport with the officers, there is a very good chance that these clubs would be at 20, regardless of whether or not they drop below 12. So that's why club coaches are important. How does a club coach do their job? And what is it that they're expected to do? In general, their job is to build a rapport between themselves and the member of the club and the officer of the club in order to create a harmonious and trustful relationship rather than an adversarial one. Their job is to observe and analyze the club environment to see how the club goes about its business, both in the meeting, before the meeting, after the meeting, during executive committee meetings, and offer advice and suggestions about how to perform better. They help the club develop a set of goals and intermediate objectives towards those goals, and then they help the club achieve those goals. Finally, their job is to help the club's members have a sense of enthusiasm and fidelity to the Toastmasters program. You want them to recognize how it is that this program serves them, how it can assist them, and you want the members to have a sense of responsibility about keeping the club alive for at least another year and beginning to not simply survive, but thrive. What's in it for you? Well, one, it's a chance to develop your team building skills. A Toastmasters club is supposed to be a team, but in reality, a lot of struggling clubs are a collection of individuals who may not like one another very much, who may have a very professional relationship with one another, but don't know how to perform together. And your job is to knit together that team. It expands your leadership experience. A Toastmaster has a chance to wear a lot of hats, and I think that the club coach role is probably one of the most powerful and important roles, because here you have to be a leader from the outside. You can't start as an inside member of the club. You have to be an outside observer coming in and saying, I have some ideas that may help you. Can I help you? Which means that you are going to improve your ability to be both a facilitator and a negotiator. And you also have to develop a certain level of diplomacy. You have to work with the club. You have to ease out any tensions that may exist between members or between members and officers or between officers. You have to have them buy into the idea that this is their project and not yours. Finally, your job is to share your expertise about the Toastmasters program, and you're investing in the future of Toastmasters. The typical district in the United States loses somewhere between 600 and 1,000 members every single year, and it loses somewhere between 5 and 20 clubs every single year. They close because they lack coaches, they lack leadership, they lack vision. When you decide to invest in Toastmasters by being a coach, you are keeping those clubs alive, and you are helping both yourself meet goals, and you are helping districts, clubs, and members achieve their goals. That's part of the reason why the club coach role, along with the club sponsor role and the club mentor role, are required in order to earn the Advanced Leader Silver Award. It's also required that you fulfill one of those three roles, coach, sponsor, or mentor, within the New Pathways program. This is a roadblock that you cannot get around, and it is worth doing, if only to get a sense of how it is done and how you can succeed in this role. What does it take to be a club coach? The answer may surprise you. The truth of the matter is that the only requirement is that you already be a Toastmaster and that you not be a member of the club that you are serving as coach. That's it. You don't need to be a competent communicator. You don't need to be a level 3 in Pathways. You don't have to have earned the Advanced Communicator Bronze credit. That's it. Are you a Toastmaster? Great. That's check mark 1. Are you currently a member of the club? No? Great. That's check mark 2. So it's a yes question and a no question. That's it. Get on it. What about the club? Does it have to have a certain number of members that are trying to keep the club alive? No. It just has to have 12 paid members or fewer. That's it. And again, you as the coach cannot be a member of the club when you are appointed to the role. Doesn't mean you can't join later, but you cannot be a member when you first see it, because your job is to be the outside advisor. That is the role that you are practicing, the outside advisor. A lot of club coaches don't join first thing. They make their joining a reward for performance. And I think that that's really worth thinking about very strongly. So your first task in the event that you decide to be a club coach is to go see the club. It does no good to pick a club that's 5 hours away. You want to pick a club that is somewhere within an easy drive of you. You want to pick a club that you actually have the time to go visit. You want to observe the club dynamics in person. You want to see what it is that makes this a club with under 12 members. You want to have a sense of how this club goes about things. You want to develop some level of personal rapport with the members. If you don't like them, or they don't like you, you're not going to be successful as a club coach. There has to be some level of trust. There has to be certain levels of respect. There has to be a sense that the two of you, members and you, can work together. Remember that clubs can have 2 coaches, so there's also an importance for you to get along with the other coach. Remember that as well. It's a good idea for both of you to be on the same page about what a given club needs. You'll also get a copy of the Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide. This is a document produced by Toastmasters International to guide you in your role. But believe me that there is nothing so important about your role as a Toastmaster. Not what you read in a book, but how you make the participants in the club feel and think about themselves and about their role. So, yes, read the book, but focus on the members. That's where the real meat is. Once you have made that connection, your first task is to sponsor this sense of ownership. Why is ownership so important? Well, in a sense, a Toastmasters club belongs to its members. Toastmasters International is an organization that is made up of the voting members, which are the clubs themselves. Who votes at those club? Who votes on behalf of the clubs at Toastmasters International business meetings? The president and the vice president of education. They are the proxies for what the members of the club decide that they want. So you want to get across to the members that the club that they belong to is, in fact, in a sense, their legal property for as long as they maintain their connection with Toastmasters. As long as they decide that they want to be a club, the club is, in a sense, their property, and they are responsible for maintaining its success. So get them to buy into the idea that the club is theirs. Now, some of that may involve business metaphors. Some of that may involve the idea of teaching them that it's a school, because it is, in a sense, a school. Some of that may involve teaching them to care for one another as individuals. But you want to get across that idea of ownership. Once you have ownership, you want to work on teamwork. Lots of clubs consist of individual members, each pursuing their own individual goals, but every single club is going to perform at a much higher level of success if they are working together as a team. Remember that you are there to help them. Tell them that you are there to help them. What I mean by that feels counterintuitive to me. I have met club coaches who want to go in, who want to get appointed as the club coach and then do everything for the club. No, that's not ideal. Your job is to tell them what it is that they could do and then set them up so that they can do it for themselves. You are there to assist them, but the vision and the actual hard labor of turning a club around is on them because the club belongs to them. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't go and visit other clubs and use those other clubs as models for their own success. But at the same time, you don't want to overwhelm their own local style, right? Leo Tolstoy said at the start of Anna Karenina, "Happy families are all alike. Unhappy families are each unhappy in their own way." And that's going to be true of Toastmasters clubs for the most part. That happy clubs are all going to have the same basic framework. Their skin is going to be different. The way they present themselves within their local community is going to be different. But the skeleton, the frame, the underlying structure of this organization is going to affect every single club. So help them build the framework, but let the skin, the outer style, be their own. Once you are a club coach, plan on doing a status check. Persuade the club to conduct the Moments of Truth. It's Toastmasters PDF 290A. You can download it from the Toastmasters store. The job is to help the club identify both their group strengths and challenges and their individual strengths and challenges. Your goal is to facilitate that discussion. Not to put a check mark on a box, yes, we did a Moments of Truth program, but to identify both what the strengths and challenges are and then figure out strategies for resolving those strengths and challenges. Figuring out strategies to use the strengths to solve the challenges. Once you've done Moments of Truth, the next thing that you should do is develop a schedule. A lot of clubs that are struggling have a lot of difficulty figuring out how they're going to get out of the spiral. My suggestion is this. There is a set of programs called the Successful Club Series, the Better Speaker Series. Between these two programs, there are about 21 speeches, including the Moments of Truth program, where you have 20 or 21 10 to 15 minute presentations on how to be a better speaker, on how to be a better listener, on how to run a successful meeting. My suggestion is that you, as the club coach, and maybe your colleague, the other club coach, should assign both to yourselves and to the other members of the club all of these speeches over the course of the next year. If a member doesn't know what it is that they're going to talk about, they've got something to work on. With 21 speeches in a club of 12 or fewer members, 11 members really, in a club with 11 members, everybody is going to have to deliver at least one of these speeches, and very likely two. Their content is set for them by the presentation. They have to learn how to talk about how to run a more successful club, how to close the sale on getting a guest to become a member. They have to talk about how to be a better listener. They have to talk about being a better evaluator. The Better Speaker series and the Successful Club series come out of the Classic Education program. You needed to do these presentations in order to earn credit for the Advanced Communicator Silver and Advanced Leader Bronze awards. There's no reason why you can't do them within pathways. There's no reason why you can't take the content from these presentations and apply it to at least some of the pathways requirements. But the goal here should be present for 10 to 15 minutes, even if it isn't your own presentation, so that the club has some content that they are learning to develop. If they learn to talk Toastmasters and think Toastmasters and present Toastmasters, the club as a whole is likely to be more successful. You, as the club coach, can do the first 2 or 3 presentations and then assign the rest to various members of the crew so that you don't sound like a broken record, and so they start learning how to say the things that will make them an important and successful Toastmasters club. That sets your schedule for the year, because you take 21 presentations from October to June. You add in a club contest, you add in a club open house, you've got 23 presentations, you add in an election of new officers, that's 24 meetings. Unless the club meets every single week, you have at least one presentation from now till the end of the year. Congratulations. Now your job as the club coach is to convince them to fill the agendas. So get the VPE on board with scheduling everybody. Hey, Joe, you haven't given a speech in 2 meetings. It's your turn. You have to be up. You have to give a speech. Plan on giving a speech at the next meeting. And you know what? Plan on giving a speech every single month. I'm going to write you down for the 3rd Wednesday of every single month from now to the end of the year. We might review that in December if we get some new members. Why don't you bring a guest? But you are on the schedule. If you're on the schedule for the 1st or the 3rd Wednesday of every month to give a speech, guess what? You are going to be a functionary for the 1st meeting. If you show up at one of these meetings unprepared, we're going to make you speak anyway. So plan on it. That's a little harsh for a Toastmasters club. I get that. But in a club that's struggling, getting across the idea that the club has to make changes in its behavior in order to achieve success is important. Giving speeches and earning awards creates a virtue cycle. It gives you opportunities for public relations. It gives you opportunities for press releases. It gives you opportunities for building teamwork because you have a schedule to keep and you have an agenda that you have to fulfill at every meeting. This means that you can use the agenda and the brand materials to put on a professional show. Again, your job as the coach is not to lead them into putting on a professional show. Your job is to coach them on how to put on a professional show. Remember that your responsibility is to step back, to show them how to use the tools and then help them to use them until they don't need you anymore. But the club should look good at every meeting. There should be at least one prepared speech, preferably 2. And if you're using the successful club series and the better speaker series, you have quality materials. Okay, they're Toastmasters branded presentations. Some of them are better than others, but you have content that has to be delivered at every single meeting in order to train the members in how to be better Toastmasters, in order to train visitors in what being a Toastmaster is about. So teach the club how to plan and produce club meetings. It's a theater production. You are putting on a show for visitors, for guests, for prospective members. You want them to come back week after week. You want them to buy a season ticket. You want them to buy 12 meetings a month for 6 months, and then you want them to buy 24 meetings in a year, 48 experiences, 48 learning experiences a year. So teach the club how to put on a great show at every meeting. You want to make sure in particular that the Vice President of Education knows what's in the club leadership handbook. You have to make sure that every single club officer is trained, that they have a sense of where and how to find tools, that they can contact their district leadership, they can contact the TI website folks, that they can contact World Headquarters. You want them to understand how to do that, but make sure in particular that the Vice President of Education is on board, right? That's the really key person to make sure has an overall grasp of what the Toastmasters experience is. Along those lines, quality clubs have this member service perspective, right? A Toastmasters club belongs to its members, and like any private club, it is there to serve the members who have chosen to pay for it to remain in existence. That's what the dues do. That's what your dues to international do. They allow you to use the education program, they allow you to use the brand, they allow you to use the documentation. That's what you pay for. So it's really important for the club to set some criteria for itself around the service that it's providing to the members. The job of the club is to provide a quality service and a reliable service to people who choose membership. If they're not providing that quality and reliability experience for the existing members, there is no way that they are going to provide that experience to guests or to future members. So along those lines, recommend that they display the club quality standards to themselves so that they know what it is that they are in it for, so that they know what it is that they are trying to produce every single meeting. Membership. In District 53, membership is the single greatest challenge for clubs across the board. Rural Connecticut, urban Connecticut, upstate New York, downstate New York, western Massachusetts. We have clubs all over the map in terms of their ability to earn awards, to get officers trained, to develop a really quality program in the club, and they have a terrible time with membership. I have said this now at every single event that I have been at. Every Toastmasters club has to surround itself with a web of advertising. You have to go to the local coffee houses, to the local bars, to the local music venues, and you have to hang posters. You have to put yourself on the Chamber of Commerce calendar. You have to advertise in every single way that you can think of. Toastmasters is an international organization, but you don't join an international organization if you plan on attending meetings. You look for meetings in the same place where you hire your lawnmower guy or where you hire your pet sitter. You go to the local supermarket, you find the local community bulletin boards, you take down a number or an email address, and you give somebody a call. That's how you find adult education experiences. That's how you find your yoga class. That's how you find all of the tools and services that you are looking for in your local community. A Toastmasters Club is a local community service, even though we're an international organization. So you must advertise because it takes 20 members to support a club. Every single club in the world loses 4 or 5 members every single year. That's why you have to find 8 new members every single year in order to achieve DCP goals. So you have to teach the club to combat attrition with a membership building culture. That means teaching them to buy into the idea of advertising. That there shouldn't be a bulletin board within 5 miles of where the club meets that doesn't have a Toastmasters poster on it. That there shouldn't be a town library within 5 miles that doesn't have a stack of brochures. That there isn't a place in town where you can't see a Toastmasters button on a bulletin board or on somebody's jacket. Membership building looks like the Toastmasters logo all over town. And you can further this by encouraging a certain level of gentle competition between people around building club membership on an individual basis. Toastmasters itself will assist you in this. There is an individual member program for Toastmasters members. If you encourage 5 people to join your club in a given year, you get a recognition. There is a program called Talk Up Toastmasters. It's in the spring. If you convince people to join your club gets a ribbon for its banner, it gets some incentives from the district, and everybody is happy. From July 31st or from July 1st to September 30th, we have the Smedley Award. In May and June, we have Beat the Clock. We have a variety of membership contests that are there specifically to encourage clubs to compete both with one another and within their own memberships on bringing in new members. Encourage them to take advantage of this as club coaches. Encourage them to recognize that their efforts for stepping out of their comfort zone, stepping out of their introverted selves into a state of telling other people about Toastmasters can be rewarded, and that there's actual feedback when they get it right immediately. Yes, I'd like to join. No, I'm not interested. That's real feedback. It's immediate, and it tells you whether or not you need to work on your salesmanship game or not. Why is membership so important? Well, clubs that retain members have some continuity to them, and they have a leadership base. Next year's officers are this year's new members. This year's officers are next year's mentors to the new officers. That's the kind of structure that you want to set up. I spoke with a number of leaders from our collegiate campus clubs recently, and I pointed out that it's a mistake to let only college seniors be Toastmasters Club officers, because it means that every May, all of the officers graduate, and you have to replace a completely new slate with all juniors becoming seniors, and every year you lose your entire leadership cadre. So recognize that every single member of a club is responsible for keeping all the other members satisfied and involved. It doesn't have to be bullying. You don't have to call people at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or at dinner time to ask why they didn't come to a meeting or if they're coming to the next meeting. But you do have to create an entertaining and supportive environment. So recognize achievement. Remind clubs and their officers that there should be member progress charts at every meeting. Show people how much further they have to go. Show people how far they've come. Recognize members who achieve education awards. Celebrate them in the meeting, give them their certificate, take some photographs, send the photographs and a little press release off to the local newspaper. Put it on the website, mention it in the club newspapers. At every step, You should recognize members for their achievement, whether they've given the 4 speeches of level 1, just their icebreaker, whether they've achieved level 5 or in pathways, or they've finished their DTM. Corporate clubs are a special exception, right? They can't use outside press releases, and some of them can't even use Toastmasters websites. So get corporate clubs in particular to use company email or intranet or company newsletters to recognize members and celebrate them. And don't forget that clubs should totally use the Distinguished Club program as a way of celebrating their club's achievements. I'm going to turn to the DCP now, Distinguished Club Program, DCP. You want the club to come up with a vision of what their club is going to become as they grow in size, as their members become more confident, as their members give more speeches. Don't develop that vision for themselves. Help the members develop that vision for their club on their own. Guide them to what that looks like. But at the same time, make sure that they understand that they have a club mission to fulfill and get them to set specific goals oriented around the club mission and their Distinguished Club program. Let's look at that club mission statement. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. At the end of every single meeting, you as a coach should look at one of the officers and say, did we provide an experience? And the officer should be able to say yes. And you can go on. Did we provide a supportive experience? Was it a positive experience? Were members empowered? Were members empowered to develop? Were they empowered to develop communication skills? What about leadership skills? Do they have greater self-confidence? Have they invested in personal growth? Are they seeing results? The answer to every single one of those questions should be yes, after every single meeting. After every single meeting of the executive committee. Did the club provide these things? An experience that's a learning experience, that's a supportive and positive learning experience. Were members empowered? Did they develop communication and leadership skills? Did they develop greater self-confidence? Did they develop personal growth? Yes, 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 yes. All the way through. So, along those lines, teach the club and its officers to use the Distinguished Club program. The DCP, or Distinguished Club program, are 10 metrics that clubs use to determine whether or not they've been successful. Some of you who are watching this know about KPIs, or Key Performance Indicators. The DCP are the key performance indicators of a club. 4 of them are administrative. Did you get your officers trained? Did you get your dues in on time? Did you provide a new officer list before the end of the year? Yes, 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 yes. Great. Here's goal 10, goal 9. Well done. Goals 7 and 8, those are about membership building, right? 8 new members to replace the 5 who've already walked out the door because the club is too small and they're not interested. Goals 1 through 6, or goals P1 through P6, are all related to educational goals, personal educational goals. Did 4 of your members start pathways and achieve level 1? It's 4 speeches, folks. I've done 4 speeches easily between July 1st and now. It's barely October 1st. I've given 4 speeches. I've earned my level 1. Why haven't you? Along those lines, if you're watching this in 2018, recognize that Pathways is the path of the future for Toastmasters. The old education program is sunsetting. You have 2 years to finish up your requirements for that. being a club coach may be part of your requirements. But somewhere between now and 2020, you should slip in a level 1 somewhere. You have to understand how Pathways works in order to be able to coach other people and how it works. And if you're afraid to start it, everyone else in the club is going to be afraid to start it. So start, begin. You don't have to go all the way to level 5 in your first year, but you do have to start. So start, get started, get on that task, be part of that program, and make sure that you participate because you are in this particular game. As a club coach, this is the game that you have chosen to play, and you have to be part of the Pathways game in order to get other people into that game. Everybody who joins your club, and you're going to need people to join the club in order for the club to become distinguished, which is what you need to do in order to have a successful coaching experience, is going to be starting in Pathways. So you have to be able to coach them in Pathways, and you have to coach the officers on how to talk about Pathways. How will you do that if you don't know anything about it? So you also have to teach the club how to write a club success plan. You have to break the Distinguished Club Program goals, all 10 goals, down into the individual components of it. Oh, look, goal 1, 2 CCs. 2 people have to give 10 speeches each. That's 20 speeches. Goal P1, 4 people have to earn level 1 in Pathways. That's 16 speeches. Amy and Paul, you're only 3 speeches away from the CC. Finish the CC and you're good. You, Paul, you're our treasurer and secretary. You have to make sure that we get officer lists in on time in June. Great. So you are responsible for part of goal 1 and part of goal 10. Great. That's your plan. Amy, finish that CC. Finish this CL that you've been working on for a year and a half. You're going to be part of, I think it's goal 5 or goal 6. Great. The whole idea is that you want to lay out for people exactly what pieces of the DCP they are responsible for fulfilling, so that they have an understanding of how they are going to deliver on the club's promise of both quality and reliability. Once you've helped the club figure out how they're going to meet those 10 goals, let the club establish whatever goals they want. Help them identify what the strategies are for achieving those goals and identify the resources that will help them, which includes the successful speaker series or the successful club series and the better speaker series. Ultimately, recognize that everyone has a doctor inside of them. And the job of you as a club coach is to help that doctor do its work. Everybody has a great Toastmaster inside of them. Your job is to help bring that great Toastmaster to the surface and how to help a struggling club become a distinguished club. That's what makes it possible for you to get credit for the club coach role, and that's the way that you achieve these goals. Are there any questions? Waiting, looking at the list of attendees. It appears that there are no questions. I don't see any raised hands. Going once, going twice. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned. Have a great night.